Russian and Ukrainian officials have confirmed 50 more civilians have been evacuated from the Azovstal steelworks in the besieged city of Mariupol. About 2,000 Ukrainian troops and several hundred civilians remain in that steel plant as Russian forces continue to attack the facility.
Joining us now is retired military general in the Australian Army, Mick Ryan. Good morning to you. Mick Ryan, good to have you on the program, General. Let's talk about the attacks on this steelworks. What is Russia trying to achieve here?
Well, good morning, Joe. It's good to be with you again. Russia is trying to secure the last bastion of Ukrainian troops in the last city in the south that has held out for some 8 weeks now. It would certainly like to do so and declare some form of victory before the 9 May parade that will occur in Moscow.
Some of those who have managed to flee the steelworks in Mariupol, they've reached areas like Zaporizhzhia and Dnipro as well. Are they safe there?
Well, for the time being, the Russians certainly have conducted attacks on Zaporizhzhia earlier in the war, were very unsuccessful, and Dnipro would be an objective for the Russians had they been more successful in their eastern offensive. I think that's unlikely at this point in time.
Russian missile strikes have been targeting railway stations in particular, but generally targeting infrastructure to stop the delivery of Western arms and other aid. Is that strategy working for them?
Not at the moment. The West has not been bullied by Putin's small-scale missile strikes to shut down the flow of aid. Indeed, it's only increased, and we're seeing a rapid transport of aid, particularly from the United States into Ukraine. It's not stopping the shift of arms by railways and roads either. So this is more a psychological series of attacks because it's not having a great effect strategically on Ukraine's capacity to defend itself just yet.
You mentioned May 9th or Victory Day. It's a significant day for Russia. It marks the victory over the Nazis in Nazi Germany in 1945. What are you expecting to happen on that day?
Well, it's a day that this president, in particular of Russia, has imbued with great symbolism. It was a day that was celebrated in Russia before he was president, but he's taken it to another level with grand parades and to unveil new weapons systems as he has on previous days. Lots of speculation about what he might say, ranging from just the normal speeches about history all the way to a declaration of war and a full mobilisation. I don't think he's going to go that far. That would be a very risky step for Putin. But certainly he will want to declare some kind of success in this war so far.
How much of that day is about show, and what is Vladimir Putin trying to achieve by that show and through that show?
Well, he wants to use this day to demonstrate Russia's might, particularly to his own people and to the oligarchs and senior military officers who keep him in power. So it is a day full of symbolism for him. He would like to use it to show off Russia's strength to the West. However, I think the performance of the Russian army over the last 10 weeks or so has shown they're considerably less competent than the Russians would like us to believe them to be.
In your assessment, how is the Russian Eastern Offensive going, and what do you expect on that front over the coming weeks?
Well, I think John Kirby, the Pentagon spokesman the other day, called it anemic, and that's probably the best description that could be used. It's been slow, it's been unimaginative. They haven't generated the combat ratios of forces to really make a breakthrough with the Ukrainian defenders. And indeed, around Kharkiv, the Russians are being pushed back by a Ukrainian counter-offensive. I think we're going to see this eastern offensive, just like in the north, sputter out at some time in the next few weeks, and the Russians will probably shift to a more defensive mindset.
Since the invasion began, we've had millions of Ukrainians flee. We've got millions displaced within Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky has launched a crowdfunding campaign to help with the war effort and also with the recovery. But this war isn't even over yet, and the scale of the destruction and the impact is already so huge. Where do you even start with the idea of rebuilding Ukraine?
Yeah, the great tragedy of not just this war but all wars is the human one, and something between 10 and 20% of Ukrainians have been displaced either inside their own country or to other Eastern European countries. The figure that I've seen from different leaders at the moment is about $600 billion in reconstruction costs for Ukraine once this war eventually ends. And that's going to be made much more difficult if the Russians hold their seaports, which about half of Ukraine's GDP is generated through those ports. So Ukraine's going to need a massive amount of economic assistance over the coming years and indeed decades to recover from this war.
Retired Military General in the Australian Army, Mick, it's great to have you on the program this morning.
Thanks, Joe.